It's time for the Coach Groves Show, where we sit down with the head coach of the Darlington Tigers football team and talk about all things Darlington School football. Now we go live to Matt Davis and Ian Griffin, who are standing by with Coach Wayne Groves.
And we are here, and we're very excited to be sitting down with Coach Groves here as we get ready for the Coach Groves Show. I'm Matt Davis. He's Ian Griffin, and across the table we got Coach Groves. And the next half hour, it's going to be all about talking about the Darlington Tigers football team and getting ready for the next opponent, which is coming up on Friday against Ridgeland, the Panthers, first road trip of the year. But first things first, we're going to shift it over to the other side of the table and talk to Coach Groves a little bit. Welcome to the show, man. Great to have you back here for another show.
Yep, glad to be here and glad for another opportunity for Darlington Tigers football this week. So looking forward to it.
Absolutely. So we'll just jump into our conversation and we'll start things off by talking a little bit about last week's game. Of course, you guys faced North Cobb Christian, very good football team, ranked in the top 10 when they came to town. And, of course, you guys went toe-to-toe with them, ended up on the losing end of things in that game, 14-7. But you guys pitched a shutout in the second half, maintained a shot until the final minute of the game. I know it was a frustrating loss in a lot of ways, but at the same time, you know, it was one of those things where you could see a lot of potential in this team and moving forward. So definitely a lot of improvements from game one to game two, like we talked about last week, wanting to see. So tell us your takeaways from last week. What were the biggest improvements that you saw as the coach?
Well, we challenged the kids the week before to improve on some certain aspects of the game, and I would say that we improved in just about every aspect of the game. We played better offensively, we played better defensively, we played better on special teams. We improved in every area that it takes to win the ball game except for one, and we turned the ball over twice going in the red zone and ended up being the difference in the ball game. Now, there's a lot of other plays that factored in to get to that point. But, you know, bottom line, if we hold on to the football, we take care of the football, we win that football game, and everybody's happy in Tigerland.
Indeed.
Well, it was a heck of an effort, Coach. I know the win's the most important stat, but last week's Honeymoon Bakery player of the game was Sammy Konchesky. And look, your whole team gave great effort, but Sammy took a beating all night and just kept ticking. And that when we had to make that decision, and it was not an easy one to make, we elected him as player of the game because of the grit he showed and coming back from the cramps and making big play after big play to help keep you in the ball game. Just talk to us about his competitive nature and the influence that has on your team.
Well, one, you know, Sammy's a great kid. He does everything we ask him to do. He's one of those kids that says less and does more. I always talk to the kids about leadership all the time, and the first part of leadership is leading by example. I tell them that's not only the main way to influence others, it's the only way to influence others. And Sammy definitely he models that. I wish he would be more vocal because he has the right to do that because of how he handles himself on the field, off the field, how he works in the weight room. But he's a competitor, and when he's out there, he's going to give you all he's got. And he had a lot of production on offense, a lot of production on defense, and even on special teams. So, we're going to need him to be big in these big ball games coming up, and definitely his leadership and at practice is going to be huge moving forward.
And, Coach, it really felt like the team stayed together as a team throughout the game, and there were a lot of other guys that their performance stood out as well as Sammy's in this particular game. So when you look back at the film and you look at some positive things that happened in the game, who are some of the other guys that stood out in terms of their performance from last week's game, Coach?
Well, I was extremely proud of just how our whole team and how hard we play. My phone blew up all weekend from different individuals in the community just said, Coach, we were at the game, and, man, your guys play so hard. And it's a testament to one, how much our kids care about each other, one, and then two, how much they love to play for Darlington, and then three, how hard they play for the coaches. I think that's extremely important. And so that I'm really proud of that. We didn't get the result we wanted, but there's a lot of guys that stepped up. I mean, Sam 20, he played over 100 snaps. He's making plays left and right on offense and making tackles and coming downhill on defense, playing linebacker. I thought Miles Twyman had a really good game on both sides of the ball, had an interception, had a second one early in the ball game that he probably should have took to the house with it, and another kind of a missed opportunity there. But Miles covered really well and ran the ball really hard and blocked really well. Will Scholl made an impact in the fourth quarter. You had a big sack on a third down and then had the interception on the tunnel screen. Was able to kind of sniff that out. And then Jace Donaldson had another good game on both sides of the ball. So just really proud of how all our kids played and how hard we played. We just got to keep it up. We keep it up, keep correcting, keep improving. We're going to get the result we want. We just got to stay after it and stay the course.
Well, speaking of that result, last week, as Matt kind of mentioned earlier, it felt like a huge step forward in terms of the improvement and getting closer to that desired result, which is wins. What was your message to the team after the game?
Well, obviously they were heartbroken, when we got in the locker room, because they knew we took a team that, everybody said was better than us, and we should have beat that team at our place. And they know that, what caused that was the ball security and letting go of the ball. So they're really disappointed there because they know we let one slip. But, the first thing I told them is I looked at them and I told them I loved them. I looked right in their eyes and I said, I love them. I love you guys. I appreciate your hard work and everything you put into this team. But again, this is another life lesson that sometimes when you do work hard and you do prepare the right way, maybe you don't always get the outcome you want. And so, again, there's a life lesson to be learned, and we got to dust ourselves off, have 2 days off, get right back to it. But that was the first thing I told them was I loved them and I'm proud of them. But, hey, we got things we got to improve on because we are far from have played our best football yet. And so this team can still keep improving, and we'll see how good we can get us.
Well, Coach, on that note, what has the tone been in practice this week, preparation? Obviously, you want to try to have a short-term memory when it comes to that kind of stuff in terms of just kind of, as you mentioned, dusting yourself off and getting back after it. So what would you say the tone's been like at practice in getting ready for this game?
It's been really good. We've got a team that's got some toughness and some grit to them, and so very resilient. They don't let too much bother them. I think right after the game, I think they probably got home, had a day off, and then the next day they were ready to come back in and ready to start working on improving the things we need to improve on going this week. And just like we tell them, the most important play in a ball game is always the next play. Well, in the season, the most important game is always the most important. So we got to learn, we got to flush it, we got to move on. And the practice has been really good this week. I thought we've prepared really well, and we'll have our final practice tomorrow morning, and I expect that to go really well as well.
Well, we've got Coach Groves with us. This is the Coach Groves Show, and we're glad you're with us, whether you're watching on YouTube or on our Facebook live feed. We've got a lot to cover over the course of the show. We talked a little bit about last week, but we're going to move on from that in the next segment and talk about the Black Shirt Awards from offense, defense, and special teams. Also going to talk a little bit about the format this year because obviously with reclassification, the region and the format and things of that nature look a lot different. And I've had a lot of questions from fans and stuff like that. They're like, what's the deal with all this? So I was hoping that maybe Coach Groves would be willing to kind of to explain that a little bit, just for the fans' sake and all, and for our sake, for that matter. But and then also we're going to have our Getting to Know Coach Groves segment later on in the show. In our final segment, we're going to start to break down and talk about Ridgeland Panthers and what you know about them. So again, a lot to cover. Right now we got to take a break. We're hanging out with Coach Groves. It's the Coach Groves Show, and we will be back.
Shop for your next car, truck, or SUV at Riverside Auto Group. Check out riversideautogroup.com today to browse their selection or visit with them in person at Riverside Chevrolet GMC in Rome, Riverside Toyota in Rome, and the all-new Riverside GMC Cadillac in Cartersville. Locally owned and operated by the Welburn family since 1974. That's Riverside Auto Group. Visit riversideautogroup.com.
All right. Welcome back to the Coach Groves Show, where we talk all things Darlington football with the head Tiger himself, Wayne Groves. And, Coach, this is one of our favorite segments of the show. We know what the Skull and Crossbones shirt means to these kids. Who were your black shirts last week on offense, defense, special teams, and scout team?
All right, on Simulation O, so Scout O, Levi Duggan gets the black shirt for last week. He played scout team receiver, simulation team receiver, and a lot of those great little post routes and glance RPO routes that North Cobb Christian was running. He did a great job of running those. And so he stood out on film when I'm watching film in the evenings. I said, dang, who's that kid running those routes? He's running those routes great. And it was Levi Duggan. And so, it's a premium for our kids to know that, our simulation team, that is such a pivotal role. And we try to let those guys know that. And we can't get ready without those guys. So everybody contributes at our practice. Everybody's in on those things. And these things are going to get really competitive, these black shirts. But Levi Duggan gets the Scout O. On Scout Simulation D this week, Grady Ferguson, we gave it to him again. As soon as we call for it, he's the first one sprinting over there, and he's giving the great look, and he's dialed in. He's like, Coach, what I'm supposed to do right here? What look am I supposed to give them? And so I've challenged the kids this week, the young guys, to step up and someone take the black shirt from Grady. But Grady Ferguson, he does such a great job that you can't not give it to him. So hopefully another guy's going to step up. Spencer Baker had he was kind of an honorable mention last week. He's going hard at practice and doing some things to really try to improve himself. So we may get him on there next week if he can continue doing that good look right there. Special teams, Miles Twyman, we gave it to Miles. He's great snaps all night long on punts and extra points and all those things. And those are one of the things that kind of goes underlooked sometimes until you have a bad one. But he does a really good job. And so those great snaps, he gets special teams black shirt. On defense, we gave it to Sam 20. Again, he played over 110 snaps on both sides of the ball, offense and defense. I think he had 8 tackles, 2 tackles for loss, and he was really coming downhill and reading and playing good linebacker like he's been coached to play. So Sam 20 gets the defensive black shirt, and then Sammy Konchesky got the offensive black shirt. Not because of production or anything like that, but just the pure grit that he has. And how he led the offense and kept us, in the ball game until late. I thought just some of the intangible things that Sammy brought to us in the game was worthy of a black shirt. So Sammy gets the black shirt on offense.
This is Coach Grove Show. We're going to move on to the next question. Before we do that, though, we were kind of taking bets before we started the show for fun on how long it would take for the John J. Rambo comment to pop up today. And it's here officially now. Happened just a couple of moments ago. Kelly Fountain has officially chimed in. But we'll go ahead and talk a little bit about, obviously we're still a couple of games and a few weeks away until you get into region, but things look a lot different this year after reclassification. There's now a power rating system, and things are handled and weighted differently for the regular season games this year from start to finish of the season. Mm-hmm. So I thought it'd be a good idea maybe to just kind of talk about the format and how all that kind of stuff works this year. Because like I say, we've had a lot of fans and whatnot curious about that, and we thought we'd get your insight into that if you don't mind.
Well, if you read all the stuff on GHSA, you'll be as bad as confused as you can be, because there's a lot of verbiage and stuff. So simple terms is what I'm going to give it to you in, is less like how I would like someone to tell it to me in. All right. So
Thank you.
It's still, if you're the top 4 in your region, even though the public and private schools are playing each other, if you're still top 4 in your region, you're going to get a playoff game. Okay. If you finish region champion or you finish as the runner-up, you're going to get a home playoff game. Where it falls into everything else on how you're going to get seeded, because once the playoffs hit, AAA to single A private schools are going to be put in their own playoff. And then you'll still have a single A public, double A public, AAA public champion, and they'll have their own league once the playoff starts. So where the power rankings are going to come in is those teams that are outside the top 2 that are guaranteed home playoff games. You're going to get seeded based on your power rankings. And so you're going to get power rank, you're going to get wins. You're going to get your opponent's wins. Okay, credits. So strength of schedule is going to be a factor. And then you're going to get credit for your opponent's wins. So it's kind of a threefold thing. It was explained to me, it's very similar to the college basketball power ranking index. So, and then there's a factor in there on neutral site games or weighted kind of neutral. A home win is weighted less than an away win. So you'd get a neutral win would be like a 1.0, an away win would be weighted 1.1, and then a home win would be weighted 0.9. So there's all those factors that go in, and then they'll seed it after that. Basically, that top 8, they'll be seeded based on those power rankings.
Okay.
Yeah.
Everybody got that?
I think so.
There's going to be a pop quiz at the end of the show.
Yes, there is.
I'll let you know that. Thank you for explaining that. We appreciate
absolutely.
that.
All right, this is one of our favorite segments of the show. This is the Getting to Know Coach Groves segment. And, the wait is over. Last week, Matt and I, we're still riding the high of Georgia Tech, knocking off Florida State and Ireland. That was just
I don't think
a great way to start.
Great win, though. It was fun to watch.
But it's week 1. And we want to know what you love most about the college game, and also your general thoughts on this expanded playoff and what that brings to the table this year.
Well, I think college football is my favorite football. And I think most people in the South will probably agree to me. The North, pro football is king, but down South, college football is king. And I just think, when you start growing up going to these games, and I've been to LSU and Florida and Georgia and Ole Miss and Tennessee and seen ball games, man, it's just crazy. It's crazy. And if you're not a college football fan and when you go to one of these games, you realize how awesome of an experience that is and how cool it is and how much tradition and, pageantry and just the game day experience that you get there is unparalleled to anywhere else. And so, the expanded playoff, I think it's great. I think there's going to be more exposure to college football. I think it's great that they're finally there's going to be no debate on, maybe that 12th or 13th team there'll be some debate on, but I think the champion will be 100% crowned. You are the best college football team when you win this championship and you win this tournament. And there'll be no doubt about it because it's going to be solved on the field. And I think that's what the fans want. I think that's what college football has always wanted. So I'm excited. I'm a Georgia fan. I don't let anybody. I let everybody know that. I was born in Georgia. Georgia South football SEC is the best conference. So, when I was about 10 years old, I said, well, I'm going to pull for the Dogs. I live in Georgia. I'm going to pull for the team. And so there was some rough years there. Georgia's finally, and a few years ago, I shook Kirby's hand. I said, thank you for making Georgia what we all know it all should have been. And so, I think they got a great chance to make another run. I know the schedule is extremely difficult for them, but all you got to do is get in the tournament.
Exactly.
You just got to get in the tournament and be one of those top 12, and you got a chance. And so hopefully the Dogs will do their thing this year. And
that's what we've been hearing from Florida State fans all week. They can still climb back in this thing after that loss.
Yeah, I wonder.
It changes the dynamic of the game, though. I mean, it's not as important to run the table. You just got to make that top 12.
Facebook is never it's always it's never defeated. I saw someone ask Florida State fans if they were still having players that are holding out from the Georgia game, and that's why that Georgia Tech was able to beat them. Yeah. I thought that was pretty funny.
Yeah, nobody pulls punches on social media. That's for sure.
It's going to be a lot more fun at the end of the year just arguing over about seeding as opposed to teams getting left out. And obviously when you look at the Florida State situation last year, being an undefeated team, I can see why they're upset about being left out. Even though I felt like they made the right call in the teams they put in. But now all of that gets settled on the field, which is the way it should be. So it's exciting. And then not to mention the way they formatted it with having some of the playoff games at home stadiums.
Yeah. Can you imagine being in Athens for a home playoff game? I mean, yeah, those are the games I want to go to.
There'll be some property destroyed.
Yes.
For sure.
No
in the words of Larry Munson.
Well, this is the Coach Grove Show, and we're glad you're with us. We've got one more segment of the show left to go. We're going to take another break here in just a couple of moments, and then once we do that, we're going to come back and we're going to talk about the Darlington Tigers hitting the road for the first time this year and heading up to see the Ridgeland Panthers, and it's the first time that this series has come up in a long time. So looking forward to talking about that when we come back. But this is the Coach Grove Show. We'll be right back.
Shop for your next car, truck, or SUV at Riverside Auto Group. Check out riversideautogroup.com today to browse their selection or visit with them in person at Riverside Chevrolet GMC in Rome, Riverside Toyota in Rome, and the all-new Riverside GMC Cadillac in Cartersville. Locally owned and operated by the Welburn family since 1974. That's Riverside Auto Group. Visit riversideautogroup.com.
All right, we welcome you back into the Coach Grove Show here with Coach Wayne Groves, head coach of the Darlington Tigers. And we got a couple more comments on our Facebook Live feed. My mom chimed in and said, "Go Tigers, go Emperors," which means she is watching the Coach Grove Show at a minor league baseball game over at Advent Health Stadium right now.
When you're in the radio biz, you learn how to multitask, right?
Truly, you do. You really do. And then Ben Baker chimed in with a "Go Tigers" and a tiger emoji. So thanks for chiming in, Ben. Great to hear from you. For people that are watching the show that don't know that, I grew up in the same neighborhood as Ben, so I've known him for a long, long time, and I know you have as well. And, of course, Coach Groves, I know you've known him for a long time, too, I'm assuming. But,
yeah.
So, well, we're glad you're with us. We're going to go ahead and jump back into our conversation here. And now we're shifting over and talking to Coach about the matchup this week. You guys are hitting the road for the first time. On last week's show, we talked a little bit about routines. And I would assume that one of the goals is try to keep things as familiar and normalized as possible despite the travel and additional tasks involved and that sort of thing. So how do you and your staff mitigate the challenges of preparing for a road game as opposed to having the opportunity to play at home?
Well, we try to keep it as normal as possible. So our normal home game routine would be the players would report to the locker room at 3:30 right after school, and then we would start, passing out equipment, packing, in this case on a away game, we got to pack bags. We have to have our special teams meetings, offensive, defensive meetings, walkthroughs. Then we eat our pregame meal, take up phones, and then we load the bus and we get ready to go. With it being an away game, just whatever the travel time is, I just back that time up, and that's what time. I try not to get them out of school and where they'll miss class time, but sometimes it's necessary. So this Friday we'll get out at 2:00. They'll get out of class at 2:00, so they'll get out a period early. And since it's an hour and a half travel, that 2:00 will make up for that time. And so we'll do all our pregame stuff. We'll eat our pregame meal about 3:15. We'll load the bus at 3:45, and we'll head to Ridgeland and be there at 5:30 and get ready to roll.
So does any of that allow a stop at Buc-ee's on the way there, on the way back?
He can't help himself.
In that sense.
We'll stop both ways.
I promise I wasn't going to do that.
Yeah.
I did that.
Yeah.
Not on the way up, but if the Tigers win, we could have a Buc-ee's stop on the way back, maybe.
That'll be it.
That's some motivation right there.
We'll see you there. No doubt about it. You are there. But.
We've talked about doing a post-game scoreboard show at Buc-ee's after road games. But anyway, the Panthers have had a couple of close losses this season. What are the things that stand out about them most on film?
Well, they've got a big roster. They've got some big linemen, and they stand out. Right now, on offense, they're a little unique in what they do. They're running a little triple option stuff out of gun, 3-back offense, a little zone option. They run some ISO. They do a real good job with their screen game. They try to get the ball out quick if you load the box up, and they're good at taking deep shot vertical routes. And it seemed like this year curl wheel routes have been really popular, and so they're majoring in some curl wheel routes, and it's one of their favorite concepts they like to do. On defense, they're a 3-4 defense. They're an odd front, and you're going to get cover 2, cover 3, and cover 4 with that. But they usually set in that thing and just kind of slant and move the front and pinch, and so. That's kind of what you're going to see out of them.
So as far as like the personnel for this team, before we went on the air, you mentioned to me they got some athletes on this team, some size, some speed, that sort of thing. So who are some of the guys that will be calling their name this weekend?
On the defensive side, some 3 of the guys that stand out is the nose, number 52, Jamarcus Jones. He's a 6'1", 265 sophomore. He plays really hard and plays good with his hands. The Mike linebacker, 22, Braylon Pritchett. I imagine that's Coach Pritchett, the head coach's son. He's a linebacker, senior. Mike, 5'9", 180 pounds. And then the free safety, number 11, Jacob Bell, 6 foot, 180-pound sophomore. He does a good job covering the secondary. On the offensive side, the center, Aiden Stone, 6 foot, 280 pounds. He's a junior. He's a really big kid and plays hard and aggressive. The quarterback, which he wasn't the starter the first game, he kind of came in the second game against our Murchie, and the first play, he pulls an option and goes about 75 yards with it. And he played the rest of the ball game. So I imagine he's going to be the starter. Quarterback 13, Jaden Lambert. He's a sophomore. He's 5'7", 145 pounds. He's really quick and fast. Running back, 2 running backs. They played number 9, Bryson Donald. He's a junior, 5'6", 180. And then number 16, Jay Sean Mellon. He's 5'8", 200 pounds. Best receiver, it's kind of their go-to guy, is number 12, Zion Jackson. He's 5'10", 190 pounds.
Thanks, Coach.
All right, Coach. 2 games in, as you guys continue to build on the experience from these first couple of games, what specific improvements are you looking to see in this week's game, and what are the keys for the Tigers to get that W?
Well, I'm always gonna give the kids 3 or 4 things to improve on, and number 1, what it is, and it's been the topic of conversation the last couple of weeks, and that's ball security. It's a premium. So we do our ball security circuits. We're gonna continue to emphasize, proper hands, making sure the ball's away from the defenders. We'll continue working, getting hit as soon as we pitch the ball and we catch the pitch, getting hit. To try to emphasize those things and getting that ball covered up and protecting it. So it's been something we've worked on every day. We always work on it, but it's still got to be a point of emphasis because we're not good enough there yet. The second, I didn't think we forced the ball very well out of the secondary and outside linebacker position last week. There's some times some of the inside zones hit up and they bounced out, and we didn't do a good job fitting it from outside in from the secondary and outside linebackers. So that's been a point of emphasis. We've got to have better communication up front on offense, communicating our calls, communicating and identifying fronts, and then the secondary communication on coverages from secondary to corner, from safety to corner, from safety to linebacker, to make sure we're all on the same page. And then I want to continue to get better on special teams. It's an opportunity for us to score, set up a score. And so we're continuing to improve on that and make sure we're dead dialed in on our schemes and our responsibilities to try to help us in the field possession game. So that's been my 4 points of emphasis.
Well, we're about to wind down this episode of the Coach Grove Show, but any final questions you may have? Or
I'm just excited to see these Tigers play. I'll ask this question. This is important to a lot of people, especially the kids. What's the uniform combo this week?
We're going on the road, so we're going to go with the Stormtrooper look. We're going to go white on white,
Nice.
Heading to Ridgeland, and we'll see if we can fire the fans up and get the Tigers rolling.
Well, we're excited about it, man, and have really enjoyed watching this team compete this season. Looking forward to another game this weekend again at Ridgeland, and certainly for people that are watching this on Wednesday, obviously you get the radio edition on Friday nights, so at that point it may be a little bit too late by the time you hear this, but we certainly urge you to wear your purple, show up, be loud, and feed some energy to these kids, man, because they're playing some really good football right now. Exciting to watch them compete. And it's going to be a lot of fun. It's a lot more fun if we see a lot of purple on the visiting stands, right, Coach?
That's right. The boys going to feed off that. This team is fun to watch. They're gritty. They're tough. They're going to give everything they have for each other in Darlington community, and they need your support. So 7:30 at Ridgeland on Friday. We need you there. We need you loud, obviously in purple, and let's give them everything Darlington has, because these boys deserve it.
I couldn't agree with you more, man. Thank you very much for your time today. Always enjoy catching up with you on Wednesdays for the Coach Grove Show. Ian, thanks for co-hosting the show as well. It's been a lot of fun, guys.
Go Tigers.
Go Tigers.
Yeah, go Tigers.
Yep. All right, that puts a wrap on this edition of the Coach Grove Show. Hope you have a great evening, everybody. We appreciate you tuning in on YouTube or Facebook Live, or if you're listening to the radio edition on Friday. However you're with us, we appreciate you, and we'll be back with another edition of the Coach Grove Show coming up next week. And also, we got the game on Friday, so looking forward to that. Well, we're going to go ahead and bid you adieu, but thanks again for watching, and we'll see you next time on the Coach Grove Show.
Thank you for tuning in to this week's edition of the Coach Groves Show. We invite you to join us again next week as we discuss all things Darlington football with head coach Wayne Groves. Go Tigers!